Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting on October 3rd, 2017 at 5 o'clock. And I'm going to ask Ms. Stephanie Johnson if she would introduce our special guest who will lead us in our invocation and our pledge.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tonight we have Carson Roberts, who is an active 4-H member in the 10th grade at Effingham County High School. He is involved in many 4-H activities on the county, district, and state level. Carson is a Georgia 4-H certified team leader and spends much of his time working with and encouraging younger 4-H members. He is also a member of Project Safe Modified Track Shotgun Team. Carson, if you'll join us, please.
You all please stand and join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing, I'll lead us in invocation. Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to come again tonight and transact the business of this community, of this county. We thank you for the privilege of serving. We thank you for these our residents, friends who are in attendance tonight. We pray that you will give us wisdom and bless the decisions that are made in accordance with your will. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
If we could, we need to approve the agenda tonight. If everyone had a chance to look it over, we have a motion to approve the agenda or the additions or corrections to it.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Keeper to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And if you would, second part, I have note that Mr. Forrest is not with us tonight. He's out of town this evening, won't be with us. Consideration to approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2017 regular commission meeting minutes. I have read those minutes, and other than on item 8, correcting, which had already been done, the motion was made by Mr. Loper and second by Mr. Loper. We had to both
Right, yeah.
making the same
Thank you.
motion. Other than that correction, I didn't see anything else. I didn't break out than what we discussed or voted on. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the noted change.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Keeper, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And the minutes are approved. Welcome the public tonight. Glad to have you with us. Ask you if you would, if you have comments, please limit to the agenda items only. And if you could limit your comments to 2 or 3 minutes so that if anybody else wants to speak, they have time to speak, that would be appreciated. Documents for this meeting are located in the clerk's office as always and on our website. I think you've had a chance to review those documents and prepare to join us in this meeting tonight. With that, we'll move into our agenda item, our consent agenda. There are 2 consent items on the consent agenda. Item number 1, sanitation releases. Consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by the administrative staff. And item 2 on the consent agenda is consideration to approve a proclamation to declare October as the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And that carries. We'll move to old business. First item of old business is a public hearing. The planning board recommends denying an application by Reed Brennan to amend the PD master plan in text for Staffordshire Estates located off of Blue Jay Road to increase the number of lots from 155 to 184, located in map number 415, parcel number 10 in the 2nd district. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. And if there's anyone that would like to speak for this item, you come to the podium this time.
My name is Reed Brennan, and as you can see, this item has been presented and tabled. I was asked to get with the engineering firm, I.C. Gambell, and come back with a plan to resolve the drainage issues that we're having in the community. At this time, I'll turn it over to Hal Craft with I.C. Gambell to kind of let him explain and walk through what the plan of action is to do that.
Thank you again. I am Hal Craft, an engineer with Hussey Bell Engineers. It's been a while since I've been in front of the commission, but it's good to be back.
Last name was Kraft.
Craft, K-R-A-F-T, yes, sir. Our firm has been involved with this product for I guess over 10 years. Coming into this new phase, well, let me back up just a little bit. The master drainage system for the project, when we originally submitted this project, included the entire development. That project was submitted, reviewed, approved, and has been built and platted in phases up to this point. And I believe it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and that timeline may not be exact, I'm not positive, but there were some drainage issues starting to creep up during the big storms. And we have looked at the issue on and off over the years and come to several conclusions, I believe. And I don't know if you have a memo that I wrote on behalf of Mr. Brennan. Just some of our ideas of what might be going on out there, but there are several things that I just wanted to make a point of. One of them is the outfall for the area north of the power line, or northwest of the power line. There are 2 large lakes there that serve as the detention for the project. Those lakes outfall into an existing wetland system. When that was installed originally, the outfall structure for the lakes was the control the water level within the ponds. And when the problem started creeping up and we started going out to the site, what we were observing was that the elevation downstream was higher than it used to be. So the ponds were staging at a normal elevation higher than what our design had intended. And the outfall structure wasn't, in fact, controlling the water surface, it was the downstream. We think this is...
I'm sorry, will you say that again? Say that once again.
That the outfall structure for the ponds is in effect not serving as the control for the elevation of the water in the ponds. It is the downstream.
Prior to that, something was higher than it used to be, or
the water elevation in the swamp or in the wetlands to the
What caused that to rise? I mean, what?
we believe it's probably one of two things. I do a lot of work in Pooler, also very similar conditions. We have a heck of a time with beavers in Pooler. If you're familiar with the Pooler Parkway I-16 interchange, we were having a problem develop there, and we found 9 beaver dams through the interchange, right there on the thing. So
we just took it, had that taken care of.
So that's, beavers are a big contributing factor. The other thing that we've noticed is there's a utility facility built downstream, almost right smack dab in the middle of the outfall through there. I know that there's a ditch and a pipe there. Possibly that is a restriction or there's a high point in that system as well. That's our 2 main ideas on what might be causing that. But again, that's something that has changed from when the system was first built, that water is just staging higher as a normal condition. So when you get a storm, if that water rises up, the rise that we anticipated is now happening at a higher elevation, not at the original elevation. So that is one thing. The other thing, which is a very common occurrence, is in the pipe system. These pipes drain from the power line across the road to the ponds. With the power lines, there's a lot of opportunities for those pipes to get sediment in them, debris from grass cutting or in the power line right away. It's very likely that some of those pipes may be backed up. And it seems from the reports I've heard that more of the problems seem to have been noted on the west side of the project, which is phase 2, I believe.
But the pipes are flowing, correct?
On the big storms, yes.
Okay, they're flowing. I'm trying to, did you say they might be backed up? Because I'm trying to understand.
That's correct.
They are flowing.
Yeah, they may be flowing, but if they're half full of sediment, they may not be flowing at the rate that we had designed them to flow at. So, and again, I'm talking partly from experience too, because I've been involved with a lot of large communities, and all of a sudden the problem will creep up, and that's one of the first things we look at is maintenance, you know. And we oftentimes find at the pipe ends, a lot of times you'll have for lack of a better term, a sandbar develop at the end of the pipe. You still get water out, but it just restricts that flow and backs up that water and slows it down. So,
You're addressing the possibilities. Do you have a resolve? One of the things the commission asked you at the last meeting was for the engineering plan and design that would remove and resolve and correct these flooding that's taking place.
well, yeah, I mean, I have recommendations. I brought a graphic if you want me to show that, but I mean, there's essentially about 5 pipes that I think should be either inspected or cleaned. A lot of times, if you're going to inspect them, you might as well clean them by the time you get somebody out there with a truck. You know, it's just as beneficial to go ahead and jet those pipes out. And that's the 5. If I can show that right here. This is the power line. We have right here phase 2 and 3 are existing, but these drainage to these ponds off of that street are the ones I'm talking about. They also extend back to the power line, and like I say, there's a good chance those
Make sure I understand that.
could be stopped up.
Where would the, that's all, where's Blue Jay Road?
Blue Jay Road is down here. This is the front area with the horse facility in the first phase. This is the big high voltage power line right away.
But you have to put bigger pipes in, I mean, I don't know what that would cost you. I mean, you had bigger pipes, but that helped it with clean them out.
Well, I mean, the first step would be to clean them out. I mean, that's much cheaper. And something that, you know, really is a road. I mean, as it ages, if those roads have been in for, I guess, over 10 years, it's something you would expect to, you know, occasionally have to do. The other couple of things is, if we proceed.
Have you put a camera in those? Is that something you can do, put a camera and make sure there's any sedimentation? It should be a very simple process.
You can, except that those pipes are submerged naturally. If they were free draining and empty, yes, you can run a camera down, but to run the camera, you'd have to plug the ends, pump all the water out, and that's what I'm saying. By the time you go to that type of expense, it's just as easy to go ahead and jet them instead of going to all the trouble of running the cameras.
Well, while you're talking, I sent a text to our public works, and I'm waiting for a response, because I'll say this, I don't know how many public meetings we've had now, on how many private meetings we've had about the same scenario with engineers, with our public works present, looking for a solution at the time. And if it's because pipes need to be cleared out, and we're hearing it today for the first time,
Yeah.
that's gonna get me. I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be surprised if that really is it, because I've been out there and visited after the last storm, and it's on both ends, it's not just one end. I mean, it's flooding on both ends, and it was almost over my waders, knee-high waders.
And how often has that been? That's another question that I have. You know, the last 12 to 15 months, we've had extraordinary storms. I mean, we've had a hurricane, 2 tropical storms, and a couple of 100-year storms. You know,
It would be one thing if there was some water and it immediately drained, because it doesn't have the area, because it's standing, it's holding.
In the road?
In the road, yeah, up on the yards. And I was out there looking at it myself in the last couple of heavy rains.
We've got some pictures here that citizens have brought repeatedly showing how bad the road is flooding.
Right. And I saw some of those, and I know some of them, I was told, was from Hurricane Matthew and things like that.
Some of the pictures we saw was just after a regular thunderstorm. I mean, there was probably 12 inches of water in the roadway.
Our public works have pumps out there pumping it away. And so if they're going to the time and expense of having to use pumps to pump it away and they haven't cleaned the pipes,
Right.
that's going to amaze me. But it's possible. And I'm glad you brought it up.
It is possible. And
I will
again,
say, in the essence of time for today, we are going to figure out the solution before we approve any more new lots.
right. Well, I mean,
That's
Yeah,
what we're looking for, is the firm bringing us an engineering solution and willing to incur the effort to correct this matter. We're all for development, we love to approve additional lots, but we want to make sure that it will not increase the flooding and will certainly take care of the flooding that's happening now.
right. Well, I mean, one thing that I was going to suggest, and this comes up, in fact, it came up last night at a Pooler City Council meeting. If you have a zoning matter and then a site plan and design matter, so I believe, you know, this is a request for a zoning change, but any project to move forward with would still have to come through for engineering review. But, you know, at least the developer would have the assurance that if the engineering can be worked out and the problem addressed, that they can do the, you know, develop the lots.
I think what we're looking for is a master plan. In my opinion, I would not support adjusting it until I knew that the current flooding issues were resolved. There's no need to prove.
That's where we are.
There's no need to prove a new lots and a new master plan amendment until the current situation is resolved.
And what about the downstream conditions? Is that,
The county is not responsible for the downstream conditions. That's private property owners. That's where the property owners want to get together, communicate. Can I come on your property? Can I cut ditches? Can I put pipes? And that's between property owners. It's not involved. It does not involve the county commission.
But we don't want to exacerbate a problem that you're bringing up by approving more lots, and you're telling us there's a downstream problem.
We recommend in the past that the owners, so that Mr. Brennan get with the property owners, find out what the downstream problems are, resolve those, and show us through engineering and work that has been resolved. Then we would certainly consider the amendment to the master plan. But there needs to be some effort on that part before we, having seen firsthand the condition out there, put more stress on that neighborhood.
and you would be looking at that in the zoning phase as opposed to the design phase, or?
What's different here in this scenario is how bad the flooding is. Because it's as severe as it is, I think that every one of us individually and cohesively feel like we're not ready to approve any additional lots with this problem here. If this problem didn't occur, then we could look at it the way you're asking us to. But it is a problem, it exists, and we need to find a solution to it. And we don't want to exacerbate it where we don't plan to.
And to that end, if you found something in the study, research that showed it was the county's issue, like cleaning the pipe, we don't check on cleaning the pipes down, but we looked at, we don't know any issues we've got that we can do to correct this matter. It's going to have to be the developers if they want additional lots. So, if you find something that's our responsibility, we'd like to hear about it. We'll check out the cleaning out the pipe, certainly. But right now, we don't know of anything that we can do to improve that situation, except that whoever wants to develop it.
The ownership of the ponds, is that in an association or not? Is that the homeowner association would own the ponds?
And that water level's high. And you're right, the water can't, when it gets so high, it can't flow to the ponds anymore. That water's got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, typically it would be, you know, the county would get it from the road to the pond, and the homeowner association would be responsible for the pond itself. So that's a typical scenario.
There, yeah, I think that's the
Right.
responsibility of the developer, home association, all those involved, people will see this move forward. We should move forward and correct those things. So, you know, I for one don't want to entertain anything else until I see those things corrected. I think that's how the board is suggesting to move forward. We'll find out then.
So the downstream conditions, you're saying you don't believe that the county has a role in that?
Unless, Mr. Lee, you can tell us the responsibility we have to go on people's private properties and handle downstream solutions, I don't know.
I don't think that can be determined right now, one way or the other. I mean,
And we certainly, if you found an issue, I think from a cooperative effort, we don't mind reaching out with the developer to the landowners and say, have been verified through engineering costs and reports that this is definitely an issue that needs to be corrected. We can do our part in that.
We'll do our part as far as verifying if there's any kind of possibility that the pipes are clogged. You know, we'll handle that aspect just like we did with the beavers. We're going to do those things. But we're not going to approve more lots until there's not flooding in that subdivision.
So that's where this board, I'm sure, will land in. So the recommendation of the zoning is to deny. Correct?
So, planning board
Planning board recommends to deny the amendment to the PD plan. That's the way we're going to move forward until we get correction on this.
I assume Mr. Brennan would prefer one more table to try to get this worked out before denying it, but I'll let him speak to
Well,
that.
one thing we don't want to do is keep bringing citizens back here week after week. They're taking time out of their energy and their schedules to come up here. And we kind of made that clear the last time. We saw a resolve, engineering resolve, that was reviewed by our engineers, and that might work. And we would consider moving forward.
Isn't our policy once we table and details once we do both of them once we can't table again? So that is where we stand on this item. However, once there's a resolution, you can put it back on the agenda.
Okay, I don't know if there was a waiting period.
You have to go back to the zoning board, right?
Yeah, you have to go back for planning board.
But that, you still need some time to get your engineering, your costs, and what you can do to resolve this. And you'd be working on that, get it back before the board. We'll listen to it again. But and nothing would make us happy to see that resolved. I'm sure the citizens as well, to see that water move from. We love to see the development. You got to step in our shoes. We cannot authorize a amendment to this code. I could, knowing what I've seen out there in the flooding that's taking place, just as heavy rains. That's the storms.
Even if the engineering would come back and have to be reviewed and approved before any further development takes place.
I would like to see that. I'd like to see the engineering plans, how it's going to be corrected, and how our engineers review it. It's just math. They should be able to give us assurance of volumes, how fast volumes can move through certain size pipes to other areas or additional ponds, whatever. They should be able to do all that volume calculations for us and give us assurance. So that's where we're at. If you have anything else to offer, we'll be glad to listen to it.
Yeah. To do fine.
From your perspective or experience, when you were referring to that, and I'm recognizing you're not saying that the pipes might not be completely full, but they might have some sludge in them there, so it affects the overall. Are you saying, and I'm getting some answers back about whether they're open or closed, or are you saying there's a scope that can determine? You put a scope down there?
Well, there's
Remember, if you seal off.
two things you can do. You can plug each end of the pipe and pump the water out, and then the pipe would be dry where you could run the camera down the pipe and look, see for any problems. The other would be just to go ahead and jet clean the pipes out. If you go into the expense of cameraing, you might as well clean them. A lot of times it's close to the same dollar amount.
I'm not whether we're going to find it to be the case. Certainly check it out, we'll check it, but the way those curves come from the asphalt road and the grass yards there, that water's pretty darn clear when you walk through it. I have a hard time believing there's a lot of sedimentation
Right.
from those roads into that pond.
Yeah, and again, you know, if you get a typical storm and it doesn't flood, but you get a big storm and it does, I mean, that's that difference that I'm talking about. And that's what I've seen in other communities, you know. You get a 2-3 inch rain and everything's okay, but you get a 4 or 5 inch rain like we had, you know, plus, like we've had a lot of the last year and a half or so, you know, then those blockages, you know, slow everything down, so.
Well, even if they get a 2 inch rain out there, they get water that stands in the street. It's not just it's when you get a 5 or 6 inch rains, it stands for days.
Well, you know, that may lend itself more to the downstream issue, which, again, if you know, I'm not in a position to say whose responsibility that is, but I mean,
I'm kind of torn on that too. I'm not certain whose responsibility it is.
I think
But I think that's the problem, if you
It
ask
would
me.
depend on the scenario when you get down to it. Where exactly is the downflow?
I'm not advocating, I'm just thinking out loud.
and that, you know, once the Corps of Engineers started making people not do work in wetlands and things like that, those old drainage runs, you know, don't get maintained like they were 50 years ago. That contributes to it, and beavers get in there. You get a storm like Matthew come through. I went trudging through a swamp recently on the west side. You know, a lot of down trees across the channels and things like that. They catch more debris. As time goes on, they catch more debris.
So, Mr. Keeper, I don't think and I'm certainly not trying to
Yeah, no, I
push
don't know that.
a responsibility we may have on that. We've already tried to get rid of beaver dams. So we're willing to, even if we didn't have responsibility, and attorney can certainly research that for us, we were certainly willing to do something to help our constituents. We can blow up beaver dams or do other things. We just don't know what else we can do unless somebody.
I met with the subcontractor trying to find a solution. I've personally tried to find solutions.
We're going to continue to look, but until we find a solution or you provide one, we can't approve additional changes to this plan. That's the key. Until we or you or somebody finds a solution. We may find one. We may come back in a year and we've got a solution that resolved. We're not going to be a now. Until we find one or you find one, if you want to put more legs to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
We may need to do it.
I don't know, I mean,
But we would,
we clearly can't just enter in their property and
Yeah.
do it, anybody's property.
but we would certainly do.
I'm just thinking in the future, should all developments, ultimately the outflow go to a public right of way, to a road or some, you know, rather to, you know.
Well, the only
public
situation here is he's applying for extra,
I'm with you.
housing.
I'm
And
just
there's no
trying to think of a
guarantee he ever
solution.
get extra. You know, he has an approval for a certain number right now, and he can go build them, like, so.
Yeah, for the future, now, maybe this is part of SRC, but maybe the future, to what the speaker said, we need to look to add to our requirements that it goes to a public outfall somewhere.
And I don't know, that's
all the
all
right of ways and easements, and maybe we have that
Design
down.
issues.
Well, I would say a minimum, an easement, a drainage easement to.
Exactly.
To a public
There you
outfall.
go.
And we may not have that now. We may need to start looking at this particular area and see if we can get a public easement, where we can go in there and get it cleaned out, and help our citizens. But until we can get that resolved, or you can resolve that, that's where we're at. We cannot, I cannot, in good conscience, add to the plan, to the budget. So,
No, I totally agree there. But I do think that if we weren't going to add, if you weren't requesting to add those lots,
He's good to go.
exactly, but we still have a problem there.
yeah, we still
We
need.
do.
And that's what I'm trying to, you know.
And the way we found out was when the citizens came and told us because of this request.
And that's the only point I was making. If we moved ahead,
I think everybody in the room wants it solved.
it would still have to pass an engineering review if we moved ahead with the number of lots we have now. So
We're not doing that.
that's just my point on
Until
that.
we can get resolved, I'm not going to support moving forward.
We want 155.
I don't think I am either, don't get me wrong, I'm just.
We want the 155 lots to drain before we come up to 184. I mean, that's it.
We may get it resolved without the developer vote. Somebody can resolve it before we can move forward. Everybody say.
I think the liability of us approving additional lots where it's already flooding, there's no justifiable smart way to go about approving that. Period.
may find it can't be resolved, it may not be. It may be that the original design is not as well as we think it is. We don't know. Anyone else speaking for this? I certainly doesn't anybody want to speak against it. If they need to thought to speak against it.
I will say, I know all you guys are here to speak against, but you've heard where we are, so unless you need to add something.
I do have something I'd like to add.
Okay.
Okay. You come to the mic, please, and state your name.
Good evening, my name is Ryan Franz. I'm one of the residents that lives on Aqueduct. And I guess in the interest of fairness, you guys definitely know where we stand, and I want to say thank you for looking out for our interests. We really appreciate it. One of the things I want to say is that when we had the recent issue with the hurricane or the storm coming through, a lot of us, of course, were very concerned, and we tried to prepare, and we were thinking it could be pretty bad for us.
All the sandbags in front of the doors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, we smelled. Yeah, there was a lot of sandbags. One of the things I wanted to say, and like I said, I want to say this in the interest of fairness because I've been one of the most vocal advocates against, and I haven't had a problem speaking my mind on that matter. As I said, I've dealt with some civil engineers before. I worked in an ethanol refinery for a time. I'm familiar with a lot of the principles. As far as the outfalls are concerned, I have made some observations where I'd say that situation improved, which I would probably attribute to clearing of the beaver dams. I live on the pond side on Aqueduct. During the storm, the most recent storm, we got a very, very large amount of water within about 12 hours. We have a small dock on our property that we have, and typically the water will sit about 3 inches below the bottom of the dock. Within that time, it was halfway up the bottom board, so it was in about probably 5 or 6 inches. What was a particular interest to me, because I'd seen that before, it wasn't a surprise, was that within about 12 hours after it stopped, it had gone down almost to the original level, which to me tells me that the outfall, that there was a pretty good exit rate. I would say that some of that had to do with the clearing of the beaver dams. The downstream issue I can't speak to. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of that, so I wouldn't say anything for or against that. However, what I wanted to point out was that although I saw that water level drop that much in that amount of time, the amount of water in the street remained for a number of days. That to me tells me that the drainage pipe, that has at least a contributing factor to what the issue is. Because if it's leaving the pond at a good rate, but it's staying in the streets, it's not going from the street to the pond. That's just my own observation, and like I said, I've been one of the most probably vocal opponents to this, but in the interest of fairness, I do feel like that is a contributing factor. It certainly isn't the only one.
Was the pond still full or not full?
I saw it rise about 6 inches during the storm. About 12 hours, roughly the same amount of time, it went back down close to the same level it was. It tells me that it's leaving the pond better than it was before. Could the outfall still be improved? I think so. I think that would help. But I do think that we do have a problem with it getting from the street to the pond. I do think that that's one of the conditions, and I think it's definitely worthy of some further investigation.
I already have Public Works investigating what they need to do about looking at the pipe.
All right, yes, ma'am.
That's to our point of obviously clean the pipe, see if there's
And I would have, had that ever been mentioned to me before this day.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. Like I said, I just wanted to say in the interest of fairness and resolving the problem all
On
the
the
way
other side
around.
is that we're talking about what if the pipe, for some reason, is not the correct size? Then no matter what you do downstream or how big you build the ponds, we have to correct the problem.
That could be, my thought, just from my previous work experience, would be to either verify that they're clear, or like they said, jet them and get them clear. That would be the least amount of money, it would be the fastest to execute.
We're gonna look at that.
And then if you have a problem after that, then maybe relook at the capacity. That's just my own opinion, sir.
We know that, I appreciate it, we're gonna do that.
Yes, sir. That's all. Thank
May
you.
already done it.
That was taken care of the moment you said it on the microphone.
Yeah, and it may
That's what I
already
mean.
done it. She's gonna check to see if it had not been done.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
RC, can we identify who the property owners that the drainage ultimately
Yeah.
Okay. If we were
Okay,
to
have
try to, see, draft easements, at the end of the day, it's going to be an ongoing.
Yeah. It'll be good if we can find,
See about obtaining the easements.
They need to be works.
you might want to look at our engineers, go ahead and design, and looking at the fall of land, where's it going? What type of properties, what is it to we move it to a public park policy?
Ultimately, it's got to cross.
Something. Yeah, if you might have that as an item to work on, see what we can do there. Okay. All right, anyone else speaking against tonight? Seeing no other comments, I'll close this public hearing. Any discussion on anyone on board? And we need a motion to approve or deny the amendment to the master plan.
I'll make a motion that we deny the amendment to the master plan at this time.
So,
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Deloach to deny the amendment to the master plan. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. And we are denying it this time, but just remember, we will continue with, so we can partner, we want to get resolved too. We love to see you be able to put more property in our area, so we don't see this as a hard no, we just want to get this resolved. So as you come up with something, contact us, let us know what we can do to help as well, okay? Thanks, sir. So we don't have any second reading. So we move to new business. New business consideration to approve and execute a memorandum of understanding between the Effingham County Board of Commissioners and Georgia Pacific Consumer Products LP. Mr. Steve, you want to address that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring forth a MOU from Georgia Pacific for a sponsorship for a new sports complex. They are a charter sponsor, and they're offering us a donation toward the park entrance sign and additional products for the park itself, including dispensers and paper products that amounts to about a year's supply. And being this charter sponsor, we would offer them signage on all of our sponsorship signs where we place them within the park. I've met with the attorney and shared the MOU. It's been reviewed, and we recommend that we support this MOU.
So this is just wherever we put a sponsorship sign, they'd be a part of that. Or if we don't put any sponsors, for instance, I'm not really in favor of putting sponsors in the boards, maybe on our main sign. So we're not required to do any of that.
No, sir.
Just wherever we do put a sponsor, it's inside a recreation building or.
That's correct. If there's a sponsorship sign, and I was very, I kind of focused in on that because the language was kind of vague dealing with an entrance sign and verifying it wasn't the monument sign with the LED sign and that on it, that it would only be on sponsorship signs, which we plan on putting within our plan and meeting with the board down there. An entrance sign as you come into the park with the charter sponsors, in addition to a larger sponsorship sign with numerous sponsors on it on the building itself, the concession stand.
Any questions or discussions from the board regarding this amendment? I think really, I think about $56,000 counting the private and dispensers, about $40,000. So
It's a very good sponsor.
Material sponsor, minimum give them some sign somewhere for sure.
That'd be a big help.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. I'll entertain a motion then.
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve offer number 1. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And it is approved. Item number 2, under new business consideration to approve the 2017 Effingham County multi-jurisdictional debris management plan update.
Good evening, Quinn Hodges, EMA Director and Fire Chief. The Effingham County Multi-Jurisdictional Debris Management Plan was initially created in 2012, and after Hurricane Matthew, we noticed
several things that we could change. We added some critical facilities. We determined that the wind speed ratings where damages occur are a little bit different than what the models initially showed. So we wanted to go back through and update everything that we thought and try to implement stuff we learned from after Matthew. So we went ahead and we crafted a preliminary plan along with our county partners and city partners. It's been before all 3 cities who approved as such. So I'd like to bring this before y'all this evening and ask if y'all have any questions.
I had some questions. I know the other, this is a question for the attorney, start with Mr. Lee. The other cities, the mayors are signed, and ours, we have an administrator signed. Is that okay to sign as administrator? That's just an authority policy. I'm not sure. Should be from the county commission signing that, or?
Go ahead, though.
I think it has both, Mr. Chairman. It has you and the county administrator.
At the very top, it did. I didn't see it at the top.
If not, it's just added.
It's below it.
Oh, okay, so I did not see that. Very good. And then here we have the engineers would be the oversight. We don't have a county engineer. Should that be the county administrator for this point? Wish I could mark where this was at. And the engineer, somebody in the oversight. I should have marked it. I apologize for that.
Right now, we can amend that to whatever the board would.
I mean, we don't have an engineer, so it's not going to work for that. Probably be county administrator who would use either engineers or EOM or probably somebody's got a coordinator, but I think engineers, either one, something would be county administrator.
We have an engineer.
I don't even think he has the, what's the
Does
other?
it have to be a P?
EIT.
Huh?
EIT,
Is it
engineering,
EIT? What's that stand for?
engineering training.
Engineering training? I don't know that he is.
If that's the case, it probably would need to be under the authority of the
Yeah, I think somebody
administrator.
a little bit authority with that. So I'll suggest that a change to the county administrator. Debris project operations. I guess that's the next, where it says engineer, I put the county administrator, because there's a place where it says, public works will be responsible for to carry out this. Public works is EOM, debris project should still come through our county administrator, should through EOM or a contractor about it. So I would just suggest.
Yes, sir.
Replace with county administrator. And that's really the one thing. One other thing I saw too is with the annexation of the Old Augusta Road, a portion of that, should those roads be included by the city of Lincoln, get responsibility for that? They got like 1,000 feet on each side of Old Augusta Road before our coming in.
Yes, sir, and this was actually, that was done after they approved their portion of it. The annexation was, this was actually intended for this to be before
So
Irma.
they need to go back and make it later for that.
Yes, sir.
I'll make them clean up all the roads that they have. So I think, the only thing I would suggest, we change it from the engineers and the public works, who are doing stuff, that would be the county administrator, who's talking good with that. So that can follow what I'm saying.
It'd be through, even though Public Works did it, it'd be through the administrator.
Right, because somebody's got to go to the engineers.
I sound like
He's administrator.
He's administrator. Right now, it says that if you go to our engineer, we don't have one. If you go to our public works record, we don't have one. We got a problem, okay? So that's going to change that. Any other questions or discussion? So we entertain a motion to adopt a multi-jurisdictional debris management plan with the amendment of county administrator being the oversight manager of those particular areas that will be put together by our attorney.
So moved.
Okay.
second.
Motion, Mr. Labor, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve with that one change made in county administrator in like appropriate places. Based on our attorney recommendations, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. I just like to make it complicated.
All right, well, I appreciate it.
Item number consideration to approve the first reading of an ordinance to adopt Article 3, Section 66, solid waste of the Effingham County Code of Ordinances. Who is presenting this tonight?
I don't know who wrote it,
Well, I think our attorney put it together, and I have read it 2 or 3 times, and we have discussed it, and there are some things that, I don't see a step, I'm looking at my agenda, I don't see one, but Mr. Lee will let you address it, but it does give us the freedom to negotiate the most responsive and effective service and competitive price, and I like what I read, so.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. It adds to our sanitation ordinance to deal with residential sanitation collection. And it's going to allow you to select a provider and enter into a contract with them like you normally do. I've met with several folks and comments from staff, and so I think it's final unless you have any particular questions.
So, has Mr. Davis had a chance to review it? Because of course, we want everything to go to the county administrator to have a staff recommendation, so I just want to be sure you had a chance to review.
I have, but with the attorney involved in this, I felt it was more appropriate for him because it started
I think it's
a little bit prior to me.
I understand. We got a new administrator, I want to be sure he's seen it and
I
feels okay about it.
I have.
So, okay.
The biggest thing I see is that this is a professional service in a lot of ways, even though it's a technical physical service as well, but there's so much more than just competitive pricing. So that'll certainly be our mindset to negotiate these things. That's always good, but I like the things we can negotiate through this to get the best service for our constituents. Once again, the most effective, responsive service we can have in an economic manner. And I think what I read allows that.
Yeah, we didn't, you want a policy to always help you stay in line and do the right things, but you also don't want a policy to prohibit you from making the best decision, and sometimes that's the case. So that's what we're trying to be sure of, is that we have a policy that protects on both sides.
Appreciate you working on this. I know you've rewritten it, and rethought, and that's, I appreciate it. Any other questions or discussions for our attorney or anyone else? Then I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance as provided by our attorney.
Make a motion to approve our solid waste ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Logan, to approve our solid waste ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any carries. Thanks for your work on that.
And just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, we are approving the first reading tonight, so it will be back on your next agenda for a second reading.
This is a motion you need to say we approve the first reading?
Yes, sir.
So would you add to that motion the first reading, Mr. Deloach?
Yes.
Okay, so we have first reading to that motion, and Mr. Logan, you second it.
Second.
All right. And all in favor, say aye. Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. Item number 4, consideration to approve to transmit the fiscal year 2017 capital improvement element update to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. Ms. Jones?
Hey, good evening. As you know, each year we're required to submit our CIE. That is due to the fact that we still have our impact fee ordinance in place, which we are trying to, of course, convert over to our cost recovery. But while that is still in place, we are required to submit this each year. It is required that we basically submit the capital improvement element update, which lists out our public safety, our roads and bridges, our parks and recreation, and our sewer and water. In this particular year, I think some of the items were highlighted in red on your item list. Those items actually were the ones that were changed last year. The only 2 items that were changed on this list in the current year have to do with water and sewer. Those items have to do with Old Augusta Road. In the past, those items were shown in progress. At this point, we have shown those items postponed. As you know, we recently did acquire water, or at least to the property line for Old Augusta Road. I did show them as postponed only because I'm not sure exactly what else we may need to do. So I still listed them on here, but listed them as postponed. In addition to that, we're also required to show them all of the financial information from year to year as far as what was collected and what was expended. Those sheets are also attached, and we are required to send a resolution, which y'all approve the resolution, and then the DCA reviews this and sends it back, and then we're required to bind and file the final paperwork.
I just want to clarify one thing that you said originally, and it wasn't you said it wrong. I just wanted to ask some additional clarification for anybody that isn't up to date with the fact that we're having to do this because we still have an impact fee ordinance, although we do not still charge impact fees.
That's correct.
We do charge capital cost recovery.
That's
At
correct.
this time. But we have not done away with that ordinance yet for the reason that we still have some funds in an account that were collected as impact fee funds, and until those are completely spent, and I'm going by recollection, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but until those funds are completely spent, then we have to keep that in place, and then once they're spent, then we can just do away with that ordinance completely. So until then, we have to keep doing this paperwork.
Yes, that's the history behind this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? We have a motion for alternative 1 or 2.
Make motion approval alternative one.
One second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mrs. Jones for alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That carries. Thank you. Consideration to approve a contract amendment 2018-08.1 to the aging service contract 2018-19. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. As the board is aware, we currently have a contract with CRC regarding our aging services. That allows us to have funding for our senior meals. We do both congregate meals and also home delivered meals. There is one correction I'd like to make on the staff report. Under item 1, you will see this contract amendment decreases funding by $6,000. It actually should read $7,700. Everything else on the staff report should be correct. That means that the total budget funding from all sources is $179,683. It is an amendment that they generally make when they're reviewing their overall funding from both state and federal. And so we get these several times a year. It will not change our overall program. And so we ask for approval so that we can get this paperwork back in and our budgets updated.
John, is it a decrease or an increase?
It is a decrease.
So the letters
I'm sorry, it is an increase. You're correct. I needed to reread it.
It is a little increase.
That's correct.
Yeah, I said decrease too, and John, when I read it in the actual document. so-
Reading too many
It was
documents.
so small on there. Sound good, okay. Any questions, discussions from Mr. Lindman? Motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion Mr. Lopez, second Mr. Deloach for alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Thank you, Steph.
All opposed, no. And carries. Item number 6, consideration to approve for the chairman and an alternate commissioner to accept annuity quote for the defined benefit plan.
Yes, sir. As you know, this past year, this board elected to close our existing defined benefit plan. In doing so, one of the functions of that is to go out and buy annuities for our existing retirees. We are at that stage in this process. The contract is with CBIZ through GEBCOR to do these functions. They have gone out and solicited an initial look at what that cost will be. So we have a tentative quote, which I'll supply to both the chairman and to whomever you select, which I believe probably would be Jamie, vice chair. And so they wanted a timeline of doing this. Once they get this final quote, they will need to be an acceptance of that quote. And so I just wanted to go ahead and take care of this so that we already had approval to do this and had 2 people selected to be able to answer for the board and make that final determination.
The summary of what I read is that we would be approving tonight to allow Mr. Loach and myself to approve up to 1.5 million.
That's correct.
That we would come under that, and that we have sufficient funds in our retirement program to cover that annuity cost.
That's correct.
And up to that amount, this annuity would fully fund whoever's getting retirement from us now at the level that our pension had defined.
That's correct.
Okay.
And under those terms, whether there was a life annuity, whether or not it was, you know, date certain and so
Retirees
forth.
under Mississippi, the annuity's going to fully fund.
That's correct.
To the pension as it would have been.
That's correct.
Okay. If it goes over 1.5 million, it'll have to come back to the board.
If it went over 1.5 million, I would say yes, it would come back to the board, but
Or did I read that they were saying that they would do the annuity up to that amount did I read that they would?
the 1.5 is the maximum that you're approving tonight to go up to. So either one of you could approve up to that
I
amount.
thought that they had given us, that they would do it for that, so if it goes over that.
No, the quote was actually lower than that.
Well, right, it was a little lower. But
Yes,
they
sir.
said that they would do that amount. Here was providing this. Is there a company that's going to provide that annuity?
Yes, that's correct. And the initial quote was lower than that, so they put it above what the initial quote was to make sure that we were okay.
So we're basically approving that quote, that's going to get that.
That's correct.
All right. So that is alternate number, is it alternate number? Yeah. So we're just going to approve for the chairman and the vice chairman to approve up to $1 million quote.
1.5
1.5.
Together or either or?
together.
Okay.
Either one of them could go up to 1.5 million.
Either or. Either or.
So we're good.
Either person,
It doesn't take both.
One signature.
correct.
So it's either or.
Yes.
Either or.
Yeah.
Either or.
Either one of them.
I thought you would vote.
And the word on here says alternate commissioner.
Says
Let's change
alternate.
that, so that when we do say in the, it would say chairman.
If Wesley, you're not available, I wanted to back up.
It's
All
either or.
right, chairman or the vice chairman,
That's correct.
either or.
Okay.
Should I confuse that enough for you?
No.
All right, very good. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the consideration for the chairman and or the vice chairman to accept the annuity quote.
Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And that carries. Thank you.
I almost said and anyway.
Ma'am?
I almost said and anyway.
It's not confusing me. All right, very good. We'll move to reports from the administrative staff. Mr. Davis, would you like to begin?
Yes, sir, I would. It's been a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting, and I want to let you know that of a few things that we've been doing. We've been working on our BPS system, our building permit system, internal online system between all of our inspectors, and making sure that all the different agencies are collectively communicating and making sure that when a CO gets approved, that everyone is checked off on it. We're also giving access to our outside consultant, EOM, on their inspections for culverts and driveways and things of that nature to eliminate some of the flooding issues and things of that nature that we've had in the past with different elevations. So we've been doing that, and it also helps streamline the process where they can approve inspections on site and things of that nature that we're working on. So we're hiring another inspector and a deputy building official that's an approved position in the budget this year, and we're putting that out for bid or for employment notice soon to help with the overflow in the inspection department. I have completed all of my meetings with all the department heads. I've started reviewing the budgets and audits to acclimate myself to the position and the authority that it comes with. So I'm actively doing that, and reviewing the organizational chart, make sure the efficiencies and the intergovernmental communication between departments as well as inter-departments is being done in an efficient manner. And we will be coming back to that and addressing that later. date. I've actually started meeting with outside partners. Met with the City of Springfield, and I've met with the IDA. I've met with the Coastal Regional Commission, and I'm going to continue down that line with the school board, the City of Guyton, City of Rankin. And I've met some of these other folks as well, but it hasn't been on a one-on-one, issue-by-issue basis. It was more on the hurricane and emergency management type stuff. So I'm trying to follow along on my plan and maintain and start to build those relationships, and being out and listening to how we communicate and where we can do things better. Mark off all these things here. We have hired a grounds and turf superintendent that will start on October the 16th. Mr. Seth Ziegler is coming from the City of Rankin and Lost Plantation, and he'll be starting October 16th, and that'll be right about the time that we're finishing up with the new park. So it's really good timing with that. So I started to look at the short-term work program and some of the projects within that, specifically dealing with some of the water issues and the looping of the system that I spoke to each of you individually about, and trying to look at the most effective way of moving forward with that. I'm going to be bringing some suggestions for some short-term issues and some long-term issues in the next meeting or two. So I'll be looking for that. I'm currently dealing with the library system and some of the interactions with that, with our MOU and our intergovernmental agreements with them, managing our library system, and that should be coming in the next meeting or two as well. And
I think that a response to your email yesterday regarding asking for certain information.
Yes, sir. And I'll be forwarding that along as well. And I haven't gotten all of it. So, and last but not least, we had a big meeting today with the Josh Reddick Foundation over at the new sports complex, and we have agreed in general terms. They obviously have to come in an MOU format to this board, but along with Commissioner Deloach and Commissioner Kiefer, the foundation has agreed to install an elite stadium at our new sports complex. This stadium will be state-of-the-art. It'll be AstroTurf. It'll have covered bleachers and stadium seating with fans. It'll have an outside scoreboard that has all the innings. It'll be the signature field at our new sports complex, and they have agreed to pay for this facility. And it is not a cheap endeavor. I don't know that we should put the dollar figure out yet, but it is a substantial investment into a park of this magnitude, and it will be a beacon in southeast Georgia for teams to come and play at, because it'll be a site. It'll be very professional, and I think all of you will be excited to see the renderings that are coming on this. But they have agreed in general.
It'll be the signature field for the southeast region, probably not just the county.
That's correct, sir. And I've got to give all the praise to Ms. Clark. Is he here?
Yeah.
There he is. Director Morgan has really facilitated those meetings and to get that going. And he did the same for the Georgia Pacific as well. So he's not only our recreation director with a lifetime of achievements there, but he's been a real advocate of getting funding and making this the premier park it's going to be. So that's it.
Bigger sign, bigger plants. No, Clarence, we really appreciate you working on that and seeing this happen. And I would love to see letters.
The hardest part would keep it a secret.
I've said for a long time, I'm going to get him to donate $1 million or $2 million, something to the county, and just to take a step forward and do this.
Well, when I made that comment in my household in April, I heard that a couple Astros that did a deal. That's what we gonna give for their hometown. And I told my wife, I said, one day Josh will give that to us.
Yeah.
happened within months.
And great when the young man remembers his roots and blesses
And
his
he loves Effingham County, and Trey and Jan had done wonder with his foundation. And it's gonna be sponsored by Josh himself. His foundation will be involved. They gonna let me, and with them, design it, and they just gonna put the final touches, and they'll write us a check when we get through.
But I think they're more excited about it than we are.
They're super excited.
If you Google John Credit's name on the internet, it says he's from the hometown, Effingham County, and attended South Effingham High School. That's like in the first sentence. So it gives us a lot of, recognition right there in the beginning. I did want to just, it's a good time to make mention, I want to say something that this board had already talked about doing prior to this, because it's not because of this, but prior to this, we had discussed, even back when we were at St. Simon's at a retreat not too long ago, we kind of talked about that we want to put up a sign at the entrance of the county that says Home of Josh Reddick. We're going to be doing some things at the ballpark, I know, like maybe possibly a road there, possibly a ball field, but definitely we want to do a sign at the entrance. We just need to find where that easement's going to be coming into Effingham County that says Home of Josh Reddick.
Coming into the.
That's something that his foundation is excited, you mentioned
We
today.
could probably get with GDOT on that.
About
I'm sure they have.
And there's been some discussion on that, especially in light of the meeting today. I actually spoke with RC about this earlier.
I actually told him weeks ago that it would happen because enough board members have agreed, but we have not had an official vote, but.
Right.
I had talked to John and the DOT man back about 6 months ago, so y'all can help it speed up.
Well, what I was referencing was the road through the park is possibly naming that road after him, and then having a street address that would be 22 Josh Reddick Drive. That's potential.
Is it premature or inappropriate to go ahead, or would it be appropriate to go ahead and maybe draft a letter that all of us can sign? Just thanking Josh for his consideration, cheering him on during the playoffs, and
I think that would be more than appropriate.
yeah, I think
I'd like to put on our next agenda that we just take an official vote just to make it public, that we do want to put a sign saying hometown Josh Reddick at the entrance somewhere. And we can work out exactly where after that, but yes, if we do that for the next agenda, then we could tell them that's something that we've done. He has certainly been a supporter of our county, and probably this is just the beginning as far as he's concerned, because that's the kind of young man he is.
Can we go ahead and just add on there about naming the road through there as well?
You can do some kind of
We need to have a few technical discussions on how about park hours and things.
You could probably put some wording that it's our intent to in some kind of way, so that we still have a way to work it all out legally, but let them know what our intent is.
Well, park hours wouldn't have anything to do with that, would it? I mean, it's still going to be a road through there, so, I mean, regardless if we have an official vote to say we intend to do that, I don't.
Well, if it's just a vote saying they intend to do it, we just need to have a few discussions on unexpected consequences.
But it'll probably just be a resolution for staff to move forward with naming the road.
One thing I want to point out is important to me, the artificial turf, what's good about that is that Navigator 3, the disabled players can utilize it.
Special needs, and how that came about, when I met with him a couple weeks ago, on the way to the parking lot, Landon said, do you know anything about Navigator? I said, I've been involved with it about 8 years, and I do a mini project with the special need group. He said, well, they wanted Josh to do something for them. I said, put the field astroturf, and that way they'll have a place to play all the sports on that they can do. And Trey went home and called Josh, and he approved of that night. So thank you to keep it for bringing that up. That's how that got brought up.
A lot of good things going on, and that's the end of my report.
A couple of things to fly out, these Astros and what's playing. And thank you personally. Sounds good, appreciate it. Anything else, Mr. Davis, nothing else?
That's it.
Ms. Young, anything?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We've been informed by the Industrial Development Authority's attorney that the IDA did not approve the transfer of the just to make you guys aware of that.
So we still on?
Yes, just a moment. Hospital board appointments, specifically Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Loper.
You only told me that a couple times.
Yeah, and
I see all this.
yeah, Ms. Fran's kind of chomping at the bit because of the lack of representation. She's not been able to have forums at her meetings, and she has provided member profile information for 2 individuals she'd like you all to consider. And if you're good with it, I'll move forward with putting it on our next agenda.
Okay.
That's fine. He told me about it before, so it's fine.
The elected officials meeting is this coming Thursday. We are supposed to RSVP if any of you are planning on attending that meeting in Jessup with the fire chief. Does anybody plan to attend?
I think it's not good.
I really can't work in my schedule.
Okay.
Secure.
Mhm. Again, this was on your committee reports last time, the golf outing. Hosted by the IDA, it's October 20th, with lunch beginning at 11 and the shotgun at 12 noon. And lastly, the financial report for August has been provided. It's in your information and meeting folders.
Do we have the training in Augusta, legislative training? next
That's
week?
right. You, Commissioner Jones, I'm sorry, Commissioner Corbett, Deloach, and Loper. That's October 10th.
You have packets from
Yes.
first next week?
Yes.
And that begins on Wednesday
This
morning,
week.
right?
Wednesday morning.
So
So you'll go up on
Tuesday
Tuesday.
evening. Any questions from Ms. Stephanie from you? Any reports from the other staff this evening?
No, sir, she did the financials, they're in your packets.
Probably better for us to review anyway and then ask questions in the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. How about from any commissioners?
Yeah, I have one thing. Just wanted to run it by y'all and just make sure after our last meeting, talking about the Springfield Central property, Springfield High School Association wanted to put up a historical marker there. I've spoken with our attorney and he thinks, that would be fine. I talked to Dr. Goldwire today. He just wanted to make sure that we were okay with allowing, I think the process starts in January. Again, is that right, Dr. Goldwire?
It'll be at the first of the year, yes, we're going to be ready with the application, so we'll be first in and maybe get an opportunity to make any adjustments need to be made before the deadline for submitting.
Okay. But he wanted to just, let's make sure how we felt we were okay, just so when the time was there,
Sort of okay, and then
he was ready to proceed.
Yeah, sounds good, because I think you made a report to us either last week or last, that you had the application pretty well done, didn't you? Just
Pretty well, there are a few adjustments to be made in it, but it's pretty much done. There are a few little things we've got to double check, not actual things, but just inclusive into the application itself.
very good.
So it'll probably be an easement agreement of some sort will come before us, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so no action other than just affirming that we're ready to move forward with it.
Right, because when it's ready, there'll be an easement brought before us to consent that's going to encumber the property, so if we were to sell it, it's going to be able to stay there.
I don't hear any option from the board of commissioners tonight, so move forward with the application.
One thing I just, could have told Steve, I do want to give maybe you and somebody with Public Works on Ward Hour Road. I know I've sent you an email previously. Nothing emergency, just I want to keep it in my mind, but it's probably best if we meet here one day with somebody from Public Works. Just to look at what we can do there. It's pretty simple. Just, occasionally get calls on it.
Mr. Lee, where are we on that property with it, Rican's trying to sell? Is that resolved with the tax commissioner, or are we still working on it?
That is resolved
Okay.
as of probably yesterday.
Okay. And I believe Mr. Sean's got his issue worked out with City of Lincoln, so they should be moving forward. That's good.
Look forward to getting them going.
Huh?
Look forward to getting them going.
I do too. I do too. I appreciate Lincoln looking at that and making an advance for them, so you can really help us out. So I said, especially on the next meeting. Ms. Jones, anything, Chris, tonight?
Everything I had on the list was the Josh Reddick and the subdivision. Yeah. So we're good.
And I believe there's a need for executive session tonight.
Yeah, very brief.
10 minutes.
Okay, I have a motion for, yes, motion for going to executive session, please.
Make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel, property, and litigation.
Second.
Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we will go into executive session. Ready? Okay, need a motion to go back into regular session.
Motion to go back to regular session.
Second.
Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer, go back into regular session, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Motion to approve executive session minutes from September 19th, 2017.
Wait a minute. We don't have any.
We didn't have any.
That's on executive session minutes.
It says no executive session minutes.
Oh,
We're approving that we had none.
no problem. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Deloach, second. Motion to adjourn, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.